What is going on, guys? Dan with Gear Focus here, and I am super excited about today's video. We get to dive down the rabbit hole that is vintage lenses. Intro! Okay, so vintage lenses. Probably not the first thing that you think about when you're looking at buying a new lens. But I'm here today to give you 5 reasons why you should. Now, I'm no expert on vintage lenses as I've only recently just started dabbling into this world. However, I do have a friend who knows a thing or two about vintage lenses. Let me introduce you to my friend, Mark.
Thanks, Dan. I'm glad you've decided to join me down this rabbit hole of vintage lenses. I'm 3 years deep since I've adapted my first vintage lens, and I don't think I'm ever coming out.
Now, the first reason you should be looking at vintage lenses is they have a unique look. If you've been in filmmaking for any amount of time, you've probably heard of the Helios 422. This is an extremely popular vintage Russian lens that I think just about everybody has owned at some point in their filmmaking career. This lens specifically is known for its insanely unique bokeh. It has a really swirly effect to it, which gives you a kind of dreamlike look to your image. Now, obviously this isn't something that you would do all the time, but when you use it correctly, the effects can be quite pleasing. Now, another popular set of vintage lenses is Canon FD glass. I personally have 2 lenses. I have this 24mm f2.8, and I also have the 35mm f2. Now, the thing that I like about Canon FD glass is it gives off the classic vintage look. Now, this lens is the Canon 24mm that I was mentioning earlier, and as you can see, it's got some pretty unique qualities to it. There's definitely a little bit of a highlight bloom, which you can see in the window back here behind me, and also on this light up here as well. As you can see, this lens gives a nice smoothness to the image without not being sharp. Also, let's ignore the bear that looks like he's seen some in the background. Lens choices are just another way for you to tell your story. Having different lenses with different feels can help accentuate certain feelings that you're trying to get across in your storytelling. Now, reason number 2 that you should be looking into vintage lenses is they're extremely easy to use across a wide variety of camera bodies. Vintage lenses oftentimes need to be adapted for you to use them on modern cameras. However, the adapters for them are extremely cheap. My Canon FD lenses, I picked up like a $50 adapter to convert them to an EF mount, and now I can use them across any camera that has an EF mount. I also have a cheap RF adapter so that I can use my glass on RF mounts as well. Because vintage lenses have been around for so long, there are tons of options for mount conversions, and they're not really all that expensive. Adapters can be extremely cheap, and you can also use them across a wide variety of camera bodies. So you can get a single lens and use it across a bunch of different cameras. Now, enough from me. Let's go ahead and turn it over to YouTube's resident vintage lens expert.
So adding to your growing list, these are some of my many reasons why I love shooting with vintage lenses. And number 1, point blank, is accessibility. Generally speaking, you can find these fast, full-frame lenses for less, and I'm trying to avoid using the word cheap because that cheapens their value, but you get the picture. Now, photography is expensive, lenses in particular. Oftentimes, the price of a modern lens might be a little much, especially if we've never shot with that lens or that focal length before. Now, when things are more affordable, we tend to be a bit more willing to take chances on them, and that will get you the experience you need to really push your boundaries, maybe beyond what you would normally be able to do. Take, for example, this Canon FD 70-210mm f4 telephoto lens. It's a manual focus lens that predates Canon's EF mount. Now, this thing cost me $50. Now, before I purchased it, I was considering the Sony FE 70-200mm f4 lens to use with my A7S II. Now, that lens costs $1,400. And after picking up and shooting with the FD lens, I discovered that the 70-200mm focal length isn't something I use in a lot of my work. Now, had I bought the 70-200 modern lens, I would have been out $1,400 versus the $50 from the Canon FD lens. Now, on the flip side, playing around with the Super Takumar 35mm f2, which cost me $100, I discovered that I really do love shooting with the 35mm focal length, and that helped inform my decision to buy this Contax Carl Zeiss 35mm f1.4 lens for $1,500. So in the end, it was an educated, worthwhile investment, and one that it's probably my favorite lens to this day. It's kind of like a try before you buy, and you'll learn a lot about what you like to shoot by being able to experiment with different lenses for a lot less. Now, the second thing I love about shooting with vintage lenses is how much I've learned while using them. Now, because these lenses predate autofocus, you're going to have to do a little manual labor to get those sharp photos. Now, it can be a bit tricky at first, but like anything, practice makes perfect. You challenge the body, and the body will respond. Now, because these lenses use a mechanical focus over a focus by wire system, it really makes learning the muscle memory aspect of focusing with that lens much easier to dial in. Now, mirrorless cameras make manual focusing much easier as well, with focus aids such as focus peaking and focus zoom, two tools I use quite a lot when shooting with vintage lenses. Now, it does mean you'll have to slow down a bit more, but that can be a good thing. Now, oftentimes when taking the time to compose a nice shot, playing with your focus can help you see more potential in your composition that might have otherwise been missed with an autofocus lens. Now, it definitely takes some practice, but it gives you a bit more ownership over your image, and there really is nothing better than nailing a shot when you've had full control over pretty much every aspect of it. That's ownership, and that is something to be proud of. Now, the last thing I love about shooting with vintage lenses is they can grow with you. I should also mention, before going down this point further, is these lenses really do make great video lenses. And if you look at what a modern cinema lens offers compared to these lenses, you'll see there's quite a few similarities. But back to my third point, growing with you. Now, on one hand, you can find them super cheap, weird, wonderful lenses, and just be happy you're saving money by being able to do more. But on the other hand, and this totally happened to me, you'll find there's enough latitude in this practice where growth potential is endless. Now, what started out for me as an affordable way to experiment quickly turned into a workflow I can use with my professional videography and work in TV doc series. This is a Helios 44-2, for example, one of the most mass-produced lenses of all time with an interesting history. Now, this one is customized, but you can find one online for about $50. And this is a rehoused Helios 44-2, the exact same optics inside, but with a custom rehousing built around it for a professional video workflow. It costs more, but it's meant for a completely different set of variables. These wouldn't exist if it weren't for the value these lenses provided, and there's an entire culture around this stuff. Now, shooting with vintage lenses really is a Pandora's box. I had no idea. Simply adapting my grandfather's lenses to my mirrorless camera would inspire me to go out and shoot more photography and completely transform my professional video workflow. Not to mention inspire a channel pretty much dedicated to them. Share what you love, that's my motto. There's a lot to learn, but learning is fun. It's kinetic and there's motion to it. And the last thing I want to do at this point in my life is stagnate. I don't know, Dan, what do you think? Do you think we covered everything?
Just about. But I think we forgot the most important thing, though.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with, and we probably should have covered that as point number one for sure.
It's fun.
So fun. And this was fun. Thank you so much for having me on, Dan. Love talking about this stuff. It's infectious. Take care, everybody. See you later.
All right, guys, so that's going to do it for our video today. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to Mark for helping me with this video and helping to explain why vintage lenses really are a great, viable option for many, many people. I'm going to leave all of Mark's info down in the description down below, so make sure you head over to his channel and show him some love and thank him for helping us out over here on the Gear Focus channel. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for this video today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If vintage lenses is something that you want to hear more about, please let us know down in those comments down below. We would love to hear from you. I would also love to hear what vintage glass you guys might be using. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to be coming out with a bunch of content here shortly, so please subscribe, hit that bell to be notified whenever we release a new video. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and remember, Gear Focus is always here to help you feed your passion. Peace.